Have you ever been ghosted? I can tell you firsthand that it's not fun. Unfortunately, it's something that if you're watching this video, you probably dealt with at some point in your life, especially if you're under the age of 30. Everything's going great, you're having a good time with someone, you're engaging in conversations, and then, just completely out of nowhere, it stops. You don't know why it happened. You don't know what happened. You don't know if that person is okay or not, or if something came up, or what the issue is. It messes you up psychologically and can absolutely wreck you because you have no idea what went wrong. And if it was something you did or something that the other person did that was out of your control. Getting ghosted absolutely sucks. And it's one of those things where you wish that people were more mature about it. But it is bizarre when you have every expectation that you're going to hear back from someone and things seem to be going well and you never hear back. And it seems as if they fell off the face of the earth out of nowhere. And I bring that all too real hypothetical up because, as it turns out, ghosting has been around for a while. Since the dawn of time, people have found ways to ghost other people. And ghosting has even happened in the National Football League, when a player decided to retire by just leaving his team on red. This man right here is Kansas City Chiefs running back Herman Herd. And we'll get to how good of a player he was in just a moment. But all these years later, Herd is best remembered not for how his playing career went, but rather for how his playing career ended. A lot of people say that your last impression is what your legacy is. And man, what a last impression this was. Because years upon years of NFL experience and highlights were forgotten about and thrown by the wayside after he retired from the sport by just not doing anything. If you want to know what it's like for an NFL team to get ghosted, then this incident from 1990 is the story for you. Because this is the story behind the 1990 Kansas City Chiefs, Herman Herd, and what has to be, considering the circumstances, the strangest retirement in the near 7-decade-long history of the Kansas City Chiefs franchise. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about Herman Herd and the ghosting heard around the world. Before I talk about the incident in question and just how bizarre it was, we need some context to understand who this man right here that you've been watching this whole time, Herman Herd, actually is, and how good of a player he was. During the 1983 season, the Kansas City Chiefs had a big problem. They were 6-10 and had no running game whatsoever to speak of. Replacing the late great Joe Delaney, who passed way too soon in an act of heroism, was proving hard for the Chiefs, as they couldn't run the ball en route to a 6-10 season in 1983, finishing dead last in rushing yards and second from the bottom in yards per carry, with the only team worse than them in that department being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The top rusher on the Chiefs in 1983 was Billy Jackson, who had under 500 yards. For some perspective, there were 40 players in the NFL in 1983 who had at least 500 yards rushing in a 2018 league, and the Chiefs had none of them. It was very clear that if they wanted to compete in 1984 and going forward, and have a chance at going to the playoffs for the first time since 1971, more than a decade ago, that they would need to find a way to improve their running game. With that, the Chiefs absolutely crushed the 1984 NFL Draft. Considered by many to be one of the weakest draft classes in NFL history on paper, seeing as a lot of the top talent didn't even enter the draft because they went to join the upstart United States Football League, the Chiefs were one of the few teams that knocked it out of the park, putting together one of the best draft classes you could possibly ask for, considering the circumstances. Bill Moss was an incredible defensive tackle who made 2 Pro Bowls and 1 Defensive Rookie of the Year. John Alt is one of the greatest tackles in Chiefs history, spending 13 years with the team and making 2 Pro Bowls. Kevin Ross was an anchor in that secondary for a decade, also making 2 Pro Bowls. And in the 3rd round, addressing the running game, they went after the man you've been watching this entire time, CSU Pueblo running back Herman Herd. Out of all the players drafted in 1984, Herd had the 3rd most rushing yards of any of them, trailing only Ernest Biner and Greg Bell. Granted, it was an unusually thin draft. He was the 2nd running back taken, as only 1 running back went in the first 2 rounds. But still, Herd was a pretty solid runner, all things considered, picking up just under 4,000 yards from scrimmage over his first 6 seasons in the league. He had an amazing center of gravity, as he very rarely went down on first contact, and could bounce off tacklers like no one else. And for what it's worth, there are only 5 running backs in Chiefs history to spend at least 6 seasons with the team, accrue over 2,500 career rushing yards, and average over 4 yards per carry. Those guys are Jamal Charles, Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, Curtis McClinton, and Herman Herd. Not bad company to be in, if I do say so myself. Herd didn't play a ton during the 1989 season, which was Marty Schottenheimer's first as the head coach of the Chiefs after getting fired from the Cleveland Browns, as he got his carries reduced due to the emergence of Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, who led the league in rushing that season. This gave Herd a career low in carries and yards, as he only ran the ball 63 times for 216 yards, and his 3.4 yards per carry average was a career low. Still, there was no doubt that he was going to make the team in 1990. He was probably going to be the 2nd running back on the depth chart. His roster spot was not in danger by any means, especially after the Chiefs did not draft a single running back in the first 8 rounds of the 1990 NFL Draft. All indications were that Schottenheimer liked Herd, and that even though the Chiefs ran out of a single back set, that Herd would contribute in some capacity for his 7th NFL season. He just needed to show up, and everything would be good. When minicamp came, though, Herd was nowhere to be found. Herd was one of 5 players to not attend the first day of minicamp in May, with Coach Schottenheimer saying on his absence, and the absence of the other guys, "We'd love to have them here, but that's their choice. They have the right and the opportunity to make those decisions. But we have to press on." Alright, so missing minicamp is one thing. Training camp is another ballgame. Sure enough, when training camp started that summer, Herd was nowhere to be found. But okay, some guys report to training camp late because they're taking care of some personal matters, or they have other things going on, or they're trying to send a message. Maybe as camp progresses, Herd will show up. But as we got deep into July, and they got into August, and the preseason was starting, sure enough, Herd was still not there. Was he trying to send a message? Was he trying to get a new contract? Was he trying to request a trade, and this was his way of going about it? Well, here's the crazy part about the man you've been watching this entire time. Herman Herd had ghosted everyone. No one had heard a thing about Herd. Chiefs general manager Carl Peterson was trying to get Herd signed for the 1990 season, and began reaching out to him in June. However, every time that Peterson called Herd, he got no response. He made somewhere in the ballpark of hundreds of phone calls and wrote letters to his address, but every time he tried to contact him, they went unanswered. And I know Herd got the letters because Peterson wrote the addresses on them perfect. So you'd figure that the next logical step for Peterson and the Chiefs would be to contact Herd's agent, Doug Chrisman. And that's what they did. They contacted Chrisman and tried to figure out what was going on with this client. So Chrisman tried contacting Herd through calls and letters and whatnot during this period, and every single time, Herd wouldn't even respond to him. Not only were the Chiefs being ghosted by Herd, but so was Chrisman, his own agent. Every day, the Chiefs and Chrisman would contact Herd, just trying to see what was up. And every day, they would get nothing. It's not like anyone changed their phone number or no one knew how to contact him. This isn't like a game of broken telephone. Herd just ghosted his own team and his own agent, seemingly out of nowhere. And with that, the Chiefs pretty much had no choice but to announce that Herman Herd had retired because, well, they hadn't heard anything from Herd. As Peterson said, "We have exhausted every avenue we can trying to communicate with him. If Herman had an interest in playing, he would have contacted us by now. They tried letters, they tried phone calls, they tried telegrams and Morse code and pigeon carrier. Nothing was working. Herman Herd retired, if you want to call it that, in the strangest way possible, by just refusing to answer anyone and do anything. He retired via ghosting. As one writer said, the Chiefs are declaring him retired simply because they don't know what else to do. Which raises the obvious question: what the heck happened to Herman Herd? If the Chiefs couldn't get a hold of him, and his agent couldn't get a hold of him, then where was he? Well, he was alive this entire time. This was not a situation where he passed away or was in bad health, and no one could get a hold of him because of that. Herd was in good health and in good spirits the entire time. Turns out, he was back in Denver and was running a barbecue restaurant and just never told anyone. Yeah, Herd got into the restaurant industry and had moved on from football for the moment. After 6 years in the NFL, it was time to hang it up and pursue other business ventures. Or so we thought. Because after running a restaurant in 1990 and ghosting his agent and his team, he came back and signed a contract in 1991 to join the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the Canadian Football League. And apparently, this whole ghosting tactic was about a contract dispute, which, I'm sorry, but that is probably the single dumbest way to handle a contract dispute that I've ever heard of in my life. And I've heard of some pretty dumb ones. You're telling me you flat out ghosted the Chiefs and your own agent because you weren't happy about your contract and you wanted a new one? How could you get a new contract if no one could contact you? Think about that for a second. How could anyone know what you wanted in your contract or that you even wanted a new contract in the first place if you don't speak to them? It's like if you want a pay raise at work. So the way you decide to go about achieving this is to just stop showing up to work and to not answer any of your boss's calls or your coworkers' calls. Try that out for science and see if you get a pay raise. I'm sure it will go over well. Or it's like if you want a better grade in class. So you decide to accomplish this by just not showing up to class anymore and not responding to any calls or emails from your teacher or the principal or your classmates. Again, I don't think you're going to get the results that you expect by doing that. Just a hunch. When the Tiger Cats signed him, Greg Mons, the director of player personnel, said, "Herman is an outstanding runner and receiver whose forte is playing in the open field where he can utilize his excellent speed." His forte was clearly not in communicating, I can tell you that much. Herd spoke on this and said, "Communications just broke down. One thing led to another, and it never got settled. It was a strange feeling, especially in September when you're used to going to practice and playing on Sunday. It's difficult. Communications just broke down? Like you were the one who broke down the communications! You were the one that just ghosted everyone! You ghosted your own team! You ghosted the party that you were trying to get a contract with! You ghosted your own agent! You ghosted the party that could have solved the issue! How are you going to say that communications broke down when everyone was trying to contact you and you just refused to pick up and do anything? Like, this was entirely your fault. Maybe you could have gotten a contract and played again if you spoke with your agent or your team the hundreds of times they tried to contact you. I just don't get how dumb one person can be I genuinely don't. That's like me saying that I broke up with my girlfriend because communications broke down when I just straight up ghosted her out of nowhere. Absolutely bizarre behavior on so many levels, and I don't even know what to say anymore. There's nothing else I can add to this. Everything just speaks for itself here. Who knows how much longer Herman Herd could have played in the NFL and could have played with the Kansas City Chiefs if he just spoke to the team or spoke to his agent. As a word of advice to anyone watching this video, if you want a new contract, the first thing you should do is ask for a new contract and talk to people. What you should not do is ghost everyone around you, thereby ensuring that there is no way that you can get a new contract because no one knows how to contact you and no one knows what you want. If you're trying to negotiate anything or be in a relationship with anyone, look at what Herman Herd did in 1990 and then do literally the exact opposite. Today, Herman Herd isn't known as a solid runner for the Chiefs throughout the 1980s, but rather as the man who just ghosted everyone and left the Chiefs in the strangest possible way, making about the worst last impression imaginable. I think he left his brain in the 1980s. Because in 1990, no one heard a word about Herman Herd. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.